All right, so I'm going to share with you one of the most interesting studies I've come across recently for people who are interested in living longer and living better. And the reason I stumbled back onto this, I had read about this study a number of years ago. I can't remember exactly where I had seen it the first time, but I came across it again in a book I read earlier in 2023 called Outlive by Peter Attia. The idea of the book is how can we live not just longer, but better. He talks a lot in that book about what he refers to as the decrepit decade, which is just the fact that a lot of people in that last decade of life from 70s, 80s, 90s, they don't have much to look forward to in terms of their physical competency, like their ability to get out of bed without pain, to move freely up and down stairs, and to like enjoy life. It's compromised, and there's also significant amounts of cognitive decline that starts to occur. And so one of the things that he talks about in his book is how we can start preparing ourselves now. What do we need to do in our younger years to set our future selves up for success so that we don't have to struggle through that decrepit decade? Instead, we can live right up to the very end, a full, energetic, ambitious, thriving life. I think that's the goal that a lot of us are seeking. And the reason this came back to mind was because I'm doing a video for the main YouTube channel, which will be coming out here in the next few weeks, where I outline the books that have had the biggest impact on my life in building a $100 million real estate portfolio and multiple businesses. So if you've ever wondered, like, what are the books Anthony recommends specifically through the lens of what I call the 4 spheres of influence. So that's mindset, health, wealth, and skills. I'm going to be laying all that out there in that video. And when I was in the health section, I really just came back over and over and over to this one book, Outlive by Peter Attia, because it really is just the one-stop shop for everything you need to know about staging off what he calls the 4 horsemen of death, which is like heart disease and cognitive decline, these things that end up taking 90% of us out in the end, how to avoid those, and then how to set ourselves up so that we don't go through that decrepit decade. Instead, we go right up to the finish line in a body that's alive and kicking and feeling pretty damn good. And he lays this out through the lens of like exercise, nutrition, all these other things. But in the process of that book, you come across a section where he talks about a study that correlates a very interesting thing with longevity. And it's so surprising when you read it that you initially just kind of disregard it. And you're like, that can't be true. That seems more like correlation than causation. Like, I'm not going to look too deeply into it because at first glance, it is just an outrageous claim. But here's what it is. They found a correlation, a very, very strong correlation as well, between grip strength and cognitive decline. And it's so interesting to think about why that might be. And Peter lays out a lot of reasons for it in the book, and this is a very, very well studied thing at this point. And one of the ideas is just that hands are really how we interact with the external world around us in 99% of interactions, right? It's how we pick up things, it's how we move things, it's how we process. And so a big part of our brain is really designed for movement as it pertains to the hands. And so as grip strength starts to decline, that also is correlated with cognitive decline, because these two things are very, very correlated. Now, which one causes the other one? It's hard to say, but one of the interesting things is that we can protect ourselves from cognitive decline to a certain degree by building up our grip capacity. So by strengthening our grip in the younger years of life, we can actually create a more of a moat or a pool of cognitive a pool for our cognitive capacity to pull from before we start noticing very severe effects in our day-to-day life. And that's so fascinating to me. It's so interesting to understand it. And I don't fully understand what all the mechanisms are at play that lead to this. But it's very clear that there is a correlation that as your grip strength starts to decline in later years, so too will your cognitive abilities. And so we need to be aware of that and be working on our grip strength. And I have my little Master of Crush, Captain of Crush little grip trainer right here. I've been a rock climber for many, many years, so I have a very high baseline of grip strength, but it's something to think about. Like, how are we training our ability to continue grasping, manipulating the world around us? Because it is possibly the most important way that we have of interacting with the world. And when it goes, a lot goes with it beyond just our ability to move things in the world. So I don't know, maybe you don't find that as interesting as I do, but I find it fascinating. So get your grip strength up, keep working on it. Don't let it slide. be able to open that pickle jar all the way up until you're 92 years old, and chances are you're going to stay nice and minty, mentally fresh. I don't know what even that means, but I hope this brings you guys some value. As always, thanks for being here. We'll catch you guys back around these parts tomorrow. Until then, stay hyper-focused, everybody.